Mr. Higgins called me in. He said, we're building landing boats now. And he said, we are going to have a school. I want you to be the senior instructor.
You must know your boat and what makes it tick.
Mr. Higgins once said, Mac, you can talk to my boats and they'll answer you, and they do. The main thing that we had to teach them is to get the boats on the beach. That's what we tried to drill into them. What was going to happen? What you're going into? You better know what you're doing. It's your life as well as the others. We start training all the military. They would come in at various times with their commanding officer, and they would stay with me for 6 weeks. We'd take them out to the lake, and we'd teach them how to handle a boat. A lot of them were making as much as 100 landings a day. We'd take those boats and just land them up on the seawall and let the troops off. And that's when we found out the boat was about the toughest boat that was made. And in that training film, the only few words he comes out with.
So like Farragut, bring the boats on in and damn the obstacles.
At the end of the war, we had trained approximately 30,000 men. And that was the Coast Guard, Army, the Navy, the Marines, all the way down the line.
The announcement has just been made that the invasion of Western Europe has begun.
Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces,
supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning.
The average American soldier going into Normandy or going into any of the other beaches in the Pacific or in the Mediterranean was about 5'10", about 150 pounds, maybe 155, was carrying as much as 60 and even 70 pounds on his back in the way of various kinds of gear and ammunition and so on.
I'm in charge of these 36 people, and I'm thinking more about them than I am anything else. I'm thinking about whether, you know, how I'm going to take care of them. I've been taking care of these people for 3 years. They're like my family, and we all have a certain amount of fear, and yet I don't remember that in particular. When you get down the cargo net and you get in the boat and you're headed for the beach, then you know, hey, this is invasion.
The guys going in, they were, for the most part, maybe even almost universally, men who had been told in the briefing before the invasion, a lot of you guys are going to die. I don't expect, the company commander might say, I don't expect to come out of this with as many as 40% of you guys in full health. And these guys would look over to their left and over to their right, and they would think to themselves, you poor bastard. They thought that they were immune. They thought, me? They're not gonna get me. My mother loves me too much. I'm too well trained. I'm too good looking. It's not gonna happen to me.
They've left the side of the ship. They know they're going shore, and they know they're going to be shot.
My convoy broke off into Utah Beach, and as we getting in position, 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, total darkness, we commenced to lower these little landing craft into the waters.
These boats of his, which were flat-bottom boats that could carry a platoon of men, 30 men, right on into the shore, drop the ramp, and these guys come rushing out of the craft, all of them firing. You've got a platoon of men right there, instantly firing away. And then the craft could back up, turn around in its own length, go back out to the transport, and then take these guys that are coming down off the rope ladders for the next trip on into the beach. And the Marines just loved that, and so Higgins got the contract initially, and eventually he became what Adolf Hitler called the American Noah.
The last moments that you're going into that beach, you're going in full throttle. Now, full throttle didn't really mean that much, because when you stop and think, you have a loaded boat with 36 men with everything they own on their back, you weighed down. So at full throttle, you were more or less like a bulldozer in the water with that big old iron bow.
Mainly they were trying to think about what they had been told, trying to think about what they had been trained to do, trying to think of, God almighty, I hope I'm not a coward. I don't want to let my buddies down. That was a big motivation for not being a coward. Your buddies are depending on you. What was going on around them? Shells coming down, great huge explosions of water going off all around them. The rat-a-tat-tat of machine guns coming in. A stream of bullet holes over the side of the LCVP.
The bullets were cascading the water out ahead of me, but you went on through because you knew you couldn't stop. And you wouldn't want any of the guys, you know, to look upon you as a chicken, you know, for trying to sidestep what the inevitable program was. That was to get these fellows ashore.
Anytime you got 36 people, you're going to have 36 different reactions to it. Some of them are just scared liverless. They'll be all sitting down, crouched down the bottom of the boat, as far down as they can get with all our gear packed on our back, or leaning against the side. Some of them will be standing there like they're in a catatonic trance. Some of them are actually crying. Others are standing there shooting the bull. But the minute that ramp drops and they look out there, they're going to start moving. Because the ramp's up, they've at least got a little protection, they think.
You can't hear anything. You got a huge motor running in the back that's drowning out everything. You got artillery fire. You have 7-foot seas and the boat slapping so loud that you can't even hear yourself. You're just two lines, one on each side. Literally, they got a few guys in the middle, and you're just waiting for that thing to go down, and these fellas don't know where they are, and you don't either. All you know, if you can see the land, that you're going towards it.
When that ramps up, that's a 1/4-inch armor plate. When that ramp goes down, you're like an egg crate with the end knocked out. You're sitting there just looking at everything. It's a spooky feeling. So you want to get off there as quick as you can.
They just dropped the ramp, and you went off the end. You had no idea what was at the other end.
They call it the gate to hell. Because when the ramp dropped down, it could be the gate to hell.
When it dropped, I was the first one out, and I stepped off into water, and it almost, well, past my waist. And I said, hey, that's great. At least it's not over my head. You don't know whether the water's 1 foot or 3 foot or 8. A lot of people drown because the water was deep.
Being that young, you're not really worried that much about, you know, you haven't thought about what's going to happen. You haven't thought about that gateway to hell.
I have 4 decorations for valor. That shows I was young and foolish.
They had that faith that adolescents have. I'm immortal. I'll go on forever. They also went in determined to win.
We left the ship that morning, 18.5 years of age. We were kids. And by the time we went through this, hit the beach, and returned to the ship as men.
They wanted to be there. They knew the importance of what they were doing, and they wanted to participate in it. They wanted to make this a world in which they could grow up. And they did.
Every one of us were there, determined to do what we'd been called upon to do, what we had been trained to do, and to do it to our level best.
And it's thanks to that generation that we are free today.
It's important that they do understand what the guys did go through, is because, God, we don't want it to happen again. It's something we can't let happen again.
Freedom doesn't come for free. The privileged life that we lead has been paid for.